on Sunday in the afternoon, Penn State picked up one of the guys we've talked about the most at defensive tackle, I think. Xavier Gilliam commits to the Nittany Lions. Another interesting positional ranking here. On3 ranks him as an edge, 6'2", 260 pounds. 49th overall player in the edge class, 19th in Maryland, 755th player nationally in the industry ranking. And if you can see here on the YouTube channel, On3 a little bit lower than that on him in terms of his overall ranking in our internal rankings at 69 overall instead of 49 overall. But Penn State really likes Xavier Gilliam from what you and I have had this conversation about. So first defensive tackle on the board, despite being an edge. How do you see this fit? How do you see how he, came to Penn State?
Well, first off, I mean, his profile is going to get changed here.
Okay.
I was already talking to him about it this past week. We learned Gilliam committed Saturday night during dinner. So, Saturday night and the Sunday, I was working with our database team trying to get that changed. It's just the way it works to change that stuff. You got to, with all the, the rankings, right? You got to move guys around. It's just not as simple as, changing his profile to, D-line instead of edge. So it's going to get changed here, I think, in the coming days. But, Gilliam has long been that guy that Penn State just turns on the film and they love it. And that's the one consistent thing that everybody's been telling me is, look at his size, 6'2", 260. I think people think, oh, he's a little undersized. But the kid's just has that chip on his shoulder. They love everything about, who he is as a player, flipping that switch and really getting after it. I mean, I've had so many people, because I know I always ask, I'm like, you got Benedict Ume, you got all these other top ranked guys. Like, is Xavier someone that you would, wait on or whatever? And I always get like like, why would we ever do that? Like just kind of question me. And obviously they know more than I do. We have highlight films. They have, massive amounts of complete game film, so they get to see a lot more than we do, of course. But no, I mean, Xavier was always going to be a take no matter what. Penn State's really happy to get him on board. Talking to him yesterday, he was saying about how he's excited for Deion Barnes, excited to be his first commitment, and excited to get recruiting now for Penn State too. I think from a personality perspective, Xavier Gilliam could very well end up being one of the best recruiters in this class. Just the way he is, with the media and things like that. I wouldn't say he's an aggressive personality who's just going to be going out of his way. But as he gets to know more of these defensive linemen, I expect Xavier Gilliam to be somebody popping up in, a future interview with whomever, as somebody he spoke with a lot.
You did see him in person at the Under Armour camp, and I do want to get into this because there has been some conversation since then about a little bit smaller than we were expecting. So can you go into just kind of what you saw and what you observed at that camp?
Yeah, he's 6'2", 260. That's what we have him listed at. If you look at some other guys, who are usually 6'3", 6'4", 280, just from that perspective, just not quite as tall as some other guys. But, I don't think there's really much more than that. I don't think Penn State really cares about that. They see a player who's very well technical, or very good technically. Excuse me, I'm exhausted. And they see he fits the program really well and a lot of those other things. So I don't, we talked about a little bit. I thought he was a little taller than what he was, but I don't think Penn State really cares about that at all. Every time I brought it up, it's not really a discussion with them. So they're happy to have him. And, at Under Armour, he worked out as an edge. So we didn't really get to watch him as much as what he could bring as a defensive line or, interior defensive lineman. So I don't want to put a ton of stock in the Under Armour camp because, again, he was, trying to rush off the edge and do spin moves off the right end. And, that's just not what we're going to see down the road.
Yeah, I think a couple things point out that kind of jump out to me when watching his film originally. And I'm excited to, as you said, to dive into as much of his full game film as possible, because what stands out to me is like, this is a traditional Penn State defensive tackle prospect where he's a bit of a tweener at the high school level. He plays mostly on the interior, but he is going to grow into being a defensive tackle. He's got the movement skills. He's got the fluidity of his overall athleticism. I really like this as that 3 technique. As you can see here, this is a bit of an older, he's 6'2", 260, as you mentioned, but critically 33-inch arms. So we talk about height, we talk about length all the time, and he has elite length for the interior. And you mentioned great technically, uses his hands really well. And when you have that combination of great pad level, strength for his size, technique, and arm length. You get a guy that's going to dominate on film. And that's what you see here on his highlight film, where he is almost unblockable. He's got the size, the penetration, everything you want from a Penn State defensive tackle prospect. It's going to take him some time to grow into his body, but I've been a fan of Gilliam for a while. I was a little bit nervous when you're like, hey, he's not quite as big as we thought at the Under Armour camp, because he's right on that line of 6'2", but the length is the thing I think that confirms this, that he is absolutely a defensive tackle prospect, and Penn State gets one of their top prospects on the board to commit and not take any other official visits. So this is, I think, a huge get for Penn State to start this class. Where do they go, I guess, from here? Because there's a lot of good guys left on the board. There's a lot of names that they can draw from. How do you feel like Penn State has positioned itself out of the first weekend?
Well, I'd be curious to see Morris Williams. You know, he North Carolina defensive lineman, came up this weekend. Hearing a lot of positive talk about that visit. He is going to go to Florida here soon, and we'll have a better feel after that Florida visit. But you know, there was a lot of talk Saturday night, Sunday about, you know, Morris Williams potentially being the guy that Penn State helped himself the most this weekend. So I think he's absolutely a name we'll keep an eye on. You know, I'm certainly trying to do an interview with him here in the coming days. David Poly, of course, was up this weekend as well. You know, I still kind of think he's going to end up at Michigan. Family supposedly, you know, really enjoyed their time up here, and you know, Poly would fit Penn State really well. The issue is when Michigan's the team you're recruiting against, like they're very similar schools in what they sell, and you know, their vision, I guess, for players. So we'll see. You know, he's going to Michigan this upcoming weekend. We'll get a better feel after that. But you know, you got Benedict Ume out there. He's still the white whale, right? You know, the one you're really pushing for, and you need to get in this class. Nigel Smith, I think, is being recruited more as a defensive end. 6'4", 265 though. Like, it doesn't, you know, he's to me, he's more of an interior guy, but I think he wants to play edge, and that's how Penn State's going to recruit him. So of course he's the you know, 4-star prospect out of Melissa, Texas. He'll be up this upcoming weekend as well. So, you know, there's a lot of interior guys that are still out there. DeAndre Cook too. I didn't mention DeAndre Cook, of course, from DC. Cook was the one at the Under Armour camp that I think stood out to Sean and I the most, just because of, well, I wouldn't say stood out to us the most, but just during one-on-one drills, you know, he actually played as a defensive lineman and was probably one of the best interior guys at that camp. But you know, there's plenty of guys. Look, they need to get at least 2 more interior guys. I think they would take even 3 more interior guys if the chips fell properly. So this is a year where they need to stack up on D-line talent. You know, the thing it always comes back to, though, is, you know, if you look at the board right now, like Ume's the only like top of the board kind of guy, and those are the kind of difference makers that I know Penn State's been searching, coveting for years now. So you got to get Ume. I think it's incredibly important. You have to land him. They have a great tradition, or a great history with recruiting Canadian players and developing Canadian players. So they got to use that to their advantage. You know, he goes to a school where they have good ties at Avon. So man, he's incredibly important. If you can get him and fill it in with a Morris Williams or DeAndre Cook, I think you're really happy with the way things play out.